I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Monisha Mittal to talk about her article in the November-December issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. You know what, Monisha? I was going to ask you the correct pronunciation of your last name before we got on this Zoom. Did I
Yeah,
say
I
it
was
correctly?
listening. You totally got it right, Mattel.
Mattel, because it could
Yeah,
have been Mattal, and I
right.
didn't know. Okay, great. I know I've heard it before, but I wasn't sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for being with me today, and thank you for
Thank
writing
you.
the article and sharing your wisdom with our viewers and our readers. So, what do you want our viewers to know about you?
Sure. I am a somatic coach and play architect. What I do in my work is I build authenticity and vitality for leaders and their communities. I do this so that they can live and lead from more of their vital center.
Mm.
I use a fairly different, unique tool set that I call somatic play. It's based on the InterPlay system, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But I do this so that you gain access to your unique knowing and somatic intelligence with physical joy and more ease. Yeah.
Okay. And you came to this work. Let's start with this. What inspired you to write this article
Yeah.
first? Because it's a
Yeah.
good story.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll tell you. So I've been on this particular journey. The door opened to my somatic play journey. It's coming on 6 years now. And so what inspired me, I was like, I know people don't really know about somatic play. Um, what is the intersection between somatic play and on purpose women? So I was really tuning into the entrepreneurial women and woke women that I really identify with,
Mhm.
in your network. And so what really came to me was, my gosh, this journey is not for the faint-hearted, and how there could not be a better curriculum for coming up against your most vulnerable fears and your shadow pieces. And so I was actually finishing writing chapter 3 of my book that I'm writing while this opportunity for this article came up. And it was all about how um, this journey of somatic play helped me to recover more pieces of my authentic self. And I discovered that my authenticity really lay underneath those places of fear and those places of vulnerability. So that's kind of how I
Yeah.
came to it.
And those fearful places, I guess you also found with your work and with your clients that you work with that fearful stuff is usually it's not the thing that pops out first. It's like we don't even know we're afraid, right? Sometimes we just know we don't want to do that or we want to stop or we've got other reasons, but
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
it's
And
fear underneath it.
well, and so the interplay system that I use, they have a phrase called body data, which is really just all the information your body is sending you all the
Mm.
time. And so we may feel a lot of discomfort. We may feel low energy. We may have uncomfortable feelings. We may be dragging. I mean, there's a lot of things we can notice, but the deeper thing is usually not the surface thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And sometimes if the fear's too big, we won't even go looking for the underneath piece, right?
exactly. And
That's why we
that's
need
where the
somebody like
play
you.
comes in. That's
Yes,
exactly right. Yeah.
yes. Well, you wrote that 5 years ago, you received a clear message that says it was time to leave your career. And we're not talking about just a job here. I think we're talking about a pretty substantial investment that you had made in a career. What were you doing? If you
Yeah,
can't tell
sure.
us where you were doing it, that's okay.
Yeah, no, of course. I live in the DMV,
Mhm.
and I was a management consultant with the federal government. I was really an organizational improvement, performance improvement type of person. I worked with fairly senior executives at various civilian agencies. on large enterprise-wide programs.
Yeah. So that's not something, you had education in that, and then you moved up the ladder and got better and better. And so and I'm saying that from my own experience as well, because I left a very lucrative, not as long term. I left when I was 40, but I'd already done pretty well. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of things to consider when you're making those decisions. But what was the message you got that was so powerful that you decided to make the leap into entrepreneurship?
Well, that's an interesting way to phrase the question, because I will tell you that really what happened is, and I remember it very clearly, and so I'm trying to just tell the headline of the story and not get too much. But what what I can tell you is I did not realize that I was playing a certain game. And the game that I was playing was that I felt unnoticed. I felt hidden, and take on, I would overexpend effort. I would take on way too much responsibility, to get noticed, to get a pat on the back. And what and so I had set up this energetic equation that I was somehow comfortable in, and while I was pretty unhappy, in the job or in the company, that I was with, and I had started to do a lot of exploration outside and had a series of awakening experiences, as we do. Several of them were with the body, and I called this my awe awakening period. But the last substantive program I stepped into was much more about higher consciousness and going direct with my with whatever you want to call them, spirit guides, higher self, things in the invisible realm, entities in the invisible realm. And on the last day of that program, the leader turned to me, and she can read your holographic energy, and she just looked at me with her eyes and just exclaimed, "Your body is a guide." And she said, "Well, everybody's body is a guide, but your body is really a guide." And it was that was the last day of the program. I flew back to DC, and from right there, what happened is there were these external players that had joined the team, and they made things very uncomfortable for me, so that my energetic equation was no longer satisfying for me, and I knew I had to go.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. What a great story.
Yeah.
And as you were talking about you were playing a game, I realized I didn't mention the title of your article. It is, let's see, I didn't write it down.
Oh, it's
It's
called Lessons
interesting.
from My Physicality. What game are you playing?
What game are you playing?
Yeah.
So, what was going on? Well, you've pretty much told us what was going on with,
Yeah.
so was it 5 years ago then that you left?
Yeah, about six. It's getting
About
on six.
six,
Yeah.
okay. And you started doing this work. You started training in this work.
Yeah. So basically, I didn't have a plan when I
Okay,
left.
that was going to be my question. I guess you weren't, oh, I'm going to go do this as an entrepreneur. I'm going to go get a new job. Did you know what you were going to do yet?
So I mentioned my all awakening experiences.
Mhm.
So all I had was this whisper in my heart. And the whisper in my heart was, I have some kind of role around the body, and that there's a lot more I need to learn about this wisdom in the body. And I have several cool stories about these awakening experiences. I even mentioned Catherine Yarborough in the article,
Mhm.
because she led these moving meditations. But I just had this growing awareness that there's a sentience in my body that is so different than the I carry around, um, neck upwards, right?
Mhm.
And so um what happened is I was going to explore. I decided I would use it like as a sabbatical, and I was going to explore three potential choices: regular improvisation, um something called family constellation systems,
I've heard of that, yeah.
yeah, and then an interplay. And interplay, like literally, InterPlay is what came out to meet me. They just came running out there. They're like, oh, we've got this program starting in February, you know, and I was already going to be flying to California to see some friends, and their headquarters were there, and I did I did a workshop at their headquarters, and I just started to meet all these people. So it just literally came out to embrace me. Yeah.
And so everything started to fall into place, at least where you didn't know, you knew where you were headed, but you didn't quite know all the details yet, right?
No, and Ginny, to be just blunt, like my professional identity is now starting to emerge. And so that has been, that is why I want to uplift InterPlay. And, you know, my approach builds on InterPlay for what I support people in doing. But the fact that in my being and becoming, it added so much. I incubated, you know, it allowed me to incubate in a way, allowed me to grow. Play is really a growth mindset, you know, because there's no failing, there's no getting it right. And so there's a lot of built-in support within play to be able to grow. And I had total delusions of, like, that's really what you get from my book, is that I thought I needed to be sitting on my laptop and like worried about my LinkedIn profile. And, you know, I didn't know what I was doing, but it helped me to come in my body in a much safer, grounded way and find each step and way leading to way type of thing. Yeah.
Wow, that's so beautiful, because you knew that if you needed I mean, at some point, if you needed a website, you'd get a website developed. And sometimes people go in and they start doing all that surface stuff,
Yeah.
and they're not even clear yet what they're offering. But there's a fear there. And you had some fears too that you talked about in your article. It didn't sound like they were necessarily fears around leaving this career and, you know, financial fears or anything, but they were fears. It sounds like about leaving that
Oh,
identity.
yes, 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 yes. I have my article here just because I knew that I would have to refer to it here and there. But yeah, so basically one thing that I really learned for myself in my first year away from my corporate 9 to 5, or maybe it took like a year and a half. But as I found greater safety in my body, but also greater self-expression through my body, because that's what this tool set is. It's a wise physical way of self-expression. I began to notice and see myself as a recovering achiever. And so what happened growing up for me is I did not feel safe in my body. I got messages that I didn't fit and that what I had to say was not wanted.
Mm.
And it made me pretty insecure about being okay being me. And so now I just get to notice. I get to notice when I put pressure on myself. I get to take off the gas. It's really about being present, but just without thinking or meditating, you know, because you embody it. And so you're at the pace of the body, and I'm just kind of following my signals, and I don't get ahead of myself anymore. You know, I'm okay being here where I'm at.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. And, you know, I'm sure you're speaking to a lot of women, and you probably attract women like this who did have to, or they thought they had to shift and change who they were to either fit into a family or fit into a job or fit into life. And because who they were was not seen, who they were was not good enough. I mean, I'm sure I'd be surprised if every woman hearing this hasn't had some of that. Because
That's
I know I
right.
sure did. And for me, I morphed into a good girl. I was always going to do the right thing.
That's right.
And it takes a lot of unlearning
It
and it
does.
does have to, you do have to get to that place where you're okay.
Right.
You are.
So, you know, there's the people pleasing, there's the being a perfectionist, or like for me, I had these invisible standards of excellence that I was always overdoing it, you know, and nobody was asking for it. And it was like,
And probably even not even noticing it when you did it, right?
it was so automatic.
Yeah.
It was so automatic. And so the unlearning like that's the beautiful thing. And I tried to exemplify that with my story, with my movement story,
Mhm.
that the beautiful thing about the safety we can find in our body is it lets you be with exactly where you're at, all the little rich different pieces. And so the sorting does not happen mentally.
Mm.
It just happens gently because it rises to your awareness. You get to play with different pieces. And then I could choose. I could say, hey, I really like some of my standards of excellence. I'm going to do that for me, you know? And so really being able, I now have learned how to accelerate the process that I went through. But yeah, I would just say that looking back, I was constantly trying to fit into boxes that were too small for me.
Mm.
I also noticed that I was fundamentally like the way that I will feel self-expressed and fulfilled, that was never going to be valued or needed in those environments, you know? Um, and then the last thing is that I actually got to recover who I am. And as it turns out, I listen with my whole body. And so I pick up frequencies from people's energy fields. And it's one of those things where I always knew I listened differently, but I was very hesitant about it. I didn't feel confident about it. And now I can just accept, like, okay, this is part of who I am and this is how I operate. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I had so many things I was going to say next, and now I've lost every single one of them. Let's see. Oh, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Is it, if you were to describe the way you were living before, would you say you were living like from the neck up?
Yeah. So
Pretty
I
much is
had
that it?
anxiety, a lot
Okay.
of hesitation.
Mhm.
I was, I have 2 Ivy League degrees. So like being smart was like, something to put energy into.
Mhm.
Being strategic was something, and it's so funny because now it's like, I am sure the caliber of women in On Purpose Women know, um, real living begins without goals. Like you don't really have plans and you don't really have, maybe you have goals, but you don't really have a plan, you know?
Yeah, definitely have some vision. I think vision
Yes.
might be a good way to put it. Some vision, some ideas, but
Yeah.
yeah, because the planning. And I have to step back sometimes myself because I'm a recovering doer, a recovering planner, a recovering, got to have it all laid out. And I do have, a really wonderful to-do system because, with my work, I have so many moving parts.
Yep.
I don't want to let drop the ball on things, but I
Yeah.
also have developed my own system that keeps me from not being invested in it too much, that I'm not constantly being concerned about, oh, what did I forget to do? Or, all of that. I want to question that has nothing to do with the article itself, but about you personally. Was it challenging for you to leave that identity? And did people in your life support you in that? Or did they look at you, some of them, and say, but you have a degree in this. You've wasted your education. I'm asking because that's what I was told.
Oh, yeah. So I would say that I didn't realize the extent. I knew I was mourning. I definitely I was filled with grief. I knew it. Um I I was kind of guided, like go to New Mexico. I went to Santa Fe, did my Georgia O'Keeffe pilgrimage.
Hmm.
And the big thing I got from that trip was, oh my God, this woman's real career started when she was 67 years old. I thought my grief was just going to be a few months. I mean, I just thought it was like, okay, now I've cried, blah, blah, blah.
What were you
Uh,
grieving exactly?
well, grieving the loss of a career,
Yeah. I just
grieving
wanted to be clear
not
that that was,
getting,
yeah.
yeah, not having my light shine, not like having invested so much and just, not knowing what I had and not knowing what I didn't have. It's like any loss. You don't know where you're at. I can now tell you definitively that I really finished mourning over the summer. And mourning kind of lets you know that you're done because all of a sudden this space opens up
Hmm.
that is free now, you know? So yes. So I will say yes, and I'm already predisposed to, I'm very sensitive to people judging me. And so that is hard. But again, because I had such a supportive structure within the InterPlay system as I got my leadership certification and everything, um, I think the generosity of that community gave me a way to grow. I had invitations to practice my leadership. So I could tell my mind, that I was on a path and that I was, engaging. But I have worked really hard this year to come up with language that is accessible around this otherwise mysterious, mysterious system and practice. It's really a practice.
Well, can you give us a little example of, you don't have to actually physically do it, but what's involved in I have a question before that. This came to me earlier. Do you run across people, I'll say women, I don't know if you work with men or not, but women who are challenged by play?
I was just leading something at Unity of Fairfax about a month ago. And it was just my introductory, come learn about this type of
Mhm.
thing. And it had been a while since, because there's a lot of different venues I step in, but there's usually folks who have had experience with this interplay system. And of course, no one did here. And so I was really struck by, I could feel and sense their hesitation and their cautiousness.
Mhm.
And so that's why I just want a presence. In interplay, we say there's a sneaky deep to the play. And the reason is these are very accessible, simple forms of physical self-expression. So, for example, we might give you some experience with some choices, like you can raise a hand, you can move it smoothly, you can move it jerkily, and then we'll give people an opportunity to just play with those choices. So it's not this, there's the beautiful sneaky deep about the interplay system. It's never about being anything else except who you are. And so what the play does is you're just expressing more of your true self in the room. And as a play architect, all I'm trying to do is I create sequences that allow people to express more and more of themselves. So
So people are just doing what they feel like doing in that moment.
that they're doing what they feel like doing, but we give them very simple choices. I give
Right,
them
right.
really simple choices to play with. And
Yeah.
the human mind doesn't do well with 20 choices. So you don't get 20, you just get a
Mhm.
few.
Yeah.
The movement um, stirs up your somatic intelligence. It stirs up all this energetic. It could be your feelings, it could be stories, it could be memories, it could be images. Like
Mhm.
it's very physical, but it comes up gently and simply, and the wisdom of the body brings up just the right thing to your awareness at the right time.
Yeah. I asked that question because years ago, it's probably been at least 20 years ago, maybe longer. I did an improv class with some people. And the first time I was so self-conscious and so rigid. And the bigger thing, the higher thing was, I don't want to make a fool out of myself.
Exactly.
And so when I think about play even now, and I'm excited because you're going to be at the Columbia, Maryland meeting this Friday, and I'm going to get to experience this.
Yeah.
And for those, I'm just going to do an aside here. If you're watching this and you live anywhere near Columbia, Maryland, Monisha will be doing a talk on this and giving us a bit of an experiential opportunity. at our meeting, our in-person meeting of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. The website is in the text of this video. You can check that out. We'd love for you to come. It'll be free for everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want to say any more about what I was just saying?
Yeah. So, I also, taking an introductory improv class was also on my awakening path.
Mhm.
And I felt, just like you, I was very self-conscious. I was very uncomfortable. And of course I grew, but it was in a very tense and anxiety type of, way.
Yeah.
Um, and but what I want to say is different here, and what's remarkable here is that within just a couple of minutes, and I don't want to give away the
Yeah.
surprise, but I will just say very quickly within a couple of minutes, people report feeling a sense of connection and a sense of wholeness. And
Mm,
they're typically you're always surprised by what they feel.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
sounds
it's
beautiful.
different.
Before we wrap up, I want to back up just a minute and make sure for anybody watching this who doesn't know, I probably should have asked you this in the very beginning, what is somatic anything? Because
Yeah.
there's somatic therapy, there's what does that word basically mean?
Yeah. Somatic really means of the body.
Mhm.
And so there are folks in the therapy realm, in the therapeutic realm. So many somatic practices have therapeutic benefits. I myself am here to provide therapeutic and non-therapeutic benefits. People are learning the depth. Um, it's just kind of like on steroids. It's like whatever you could put, somatic experiencing, there's somatic release, there's even interfamily systems with somatics. And so what they're learning is that every part of your lived experience is stored in your body as energetic data. And the body will provide you a way out. Your body will provide you a way out. And that's one of the reasons I love this work is the body never lies, and it's guiding you with this built-in compassion and non-judgmental compassion, that having a felt sense experience of that without, that's a problem with stuff in our heads. We can't fully trust it, but this is real. You can feel it and you can sense it and you can own it and you can say, this is mine. So that's what somatics is people are working with the physicality of your body. And that's what interplay is. It works with physical self-expression. It's physical improvisation. So that's why it's different. Yeah.
And can this and does this or will this lead to people trusting their bodies then?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I actually just working with a new client, and she, after just two sessions, she has just opened this door, and she was saying, I cannot believe I feel safer in my body. She said, we need to get this out to the masses. And
Wow. Wow. That makes it all worth it, doesn't it?
yes, it's helping people come home to themselves, and knowing that you can actually trust every inch of who you are and every inch of your lived experience is holy. Yeah.
Mm, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, if you're watching this live or a replay on YouTube, you can read Monisha's article at opwgc.com/magazine. That is also in the text of this video. And she goes into some more stories, some more examples. So there's a lot more information. We want to tell you everything here because we want you to go read that article. And I'm sure Monisha will be writing some future things to share with us as well. Monisha, how can our viewers find out more about you?
Sure. So thank you, Ginny. I would love to invite people to my website. It's www.monishamittal.com. So Monisha, Mittal.com. And you can click the somatic play link, but I'd love to invite people to try out my one-on-one somatic transmission sessions. And I call them play dates. Right now, there's a fall special for just a 3-session package. So just like a quick in and out.
Mhm.
I also would love to guide people to my Substack publication. It's called The Tiny Voice of Big Love, and that's at monishamittal.substack.com. And this is the best way between my website and the Substack to learn of some of my free pop-up sessions that I'm hoping to, that I'm looking to offer in December and January. I'm going to do them online, but also looking for in-person space right now. And I would love for people to have a physical experience of strength and tenderness and safety and spaciousness. And this is all leading up to a course I want to offer by the end of January called Done with Overdoing It, From Achieving to Receiving. So it's really a master class in learning how to receive. And of course, this Friday, I will be giving a little taste of this practice at the in-person gathering in Columbia. And I would love for people to come out there.
I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it, even more so now that I think I understand more. And I just want to thank you for sharing your wisdom with us and your experiences, because I think that, that vulnerability that you talked about a little earlier, and the realness and the showing who we really are, that is so important, because, we walk around, so many of us can walk around. I read something many decades ago that said we walk around judging our insides by other people's outsides, and we
Perfect.
never measure up. And so the
Exactly.
work that you're doing is helping people to discover their true insides so that they can show them to the world, correct?
That is
Way to put it.
absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And like you said, we don't have that many spaces where we can actually just be exactly with how we feel or how we are. And that is the invitation of the body. It's like, I'm here for you. We can do this,
Wow. Well, Manisha, do you have a final thought for our viewers?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I would just really want everyone to know you are unfolding. You are so precious in every moment of your unfolding. There is no judgment of something being good or something being bad. And your body is really wanting to be your biggest ally.
Thank you. That's perfect. That's perfect. So I want to thank anyone watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. For more information on the On Purpose Woman Global Community and magazine, you can click on the links in this video. And a reminder to also check out Monisha's website and her Substack for more opportunities, for more details, and for some of her writing. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. And thank you, Monisha. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you, Ginny. It's been so much fun and such a pleasure.